march with king to h6, and there's no way black can stop the kiss of death checkmate with queen to g7.
But wait, before we start, if you are new to my channel, you are welcome here at Elamars TV. Hit that like and subscribe button and be notified every time I upload video like this. Okay, let's get back to the video.
And the whole point of this checkmate is you use your queen to deliver a deadly checkmate to your opponent's king. In this case, queen to e7, you can see that the queen is giving the opponent's king that deadly kiss, hence the kiss of death checkmate. Now, this is a very basic example of this pattern, and there are a number of different ways this can occur. For example, here the king is defending the queen, which of course is key. The black king cannot take the queen, can't move into the king's range. But you could have a number of other pieces defending the queen. You could have a pawn, for example, you could have a knight, a bishop, a rook. But the kiss of death checkmate is really where the queen comes right in front of the opposing king, delivering checkmate. Now we're going to take a look at some much more complex examples of this checkmate. And again, we're going to look out for things that you should be noting when you are playing your own games. How can you actually get these checkmates to work? What should you be looking for? Let's move on to another example now to jump into, actually I'm afraid, my brain. I'm now taking the black pieces. You can see my pieces converging around my opponent's king. And already my pattern recognition is going spider sense. My queen is very near my opponent's king. I'm threatening rook takes h3 here with mate to follow. My opponent plays rook d1. In order to deliver checkmate, you need to throw your pieces into the attack. I don't have anything immediate here, so I move my knight around, knight to f6. My opponent aims to swap the queens off with queen to e1. But now a devastating technique, a devastating tactical sequence. Now, why does this work and how does this relate to the kiss of death? Well, the key thing about this combination we're going to see here is that it works because of the threat of the kiss of death checkmate. So when you're trying to spot these kind of patterns in your own games and you're trying to improve your sense of when to attack, you should really be looking at certain signs. For example, here, I have a queen, rook, knight, and bishop, all potentially attacking my opponent's king, which means there's very likely to be a breakthrough, especially as my opponent doesn't have any pieces near his king. Look at his pieces, they're all over on the other side of the board. So I should be looking for a blast, I should be looking for a breakthrough. Like I mentioned before, you've got to look for the most forcing moves, ways to open up your opponent's king. That is normally checks. So all I did here, I was looking for checks and captures that forced a sequence of moves, and I was also looking at threats. So the first move I looked at, and I didn't need to look at any other moves, I certainly don't want to exchange queens because then I won't be able to checkmate my opponent, was rook takes h3. And this works a treat. Pawn takes h3, queen takes h3 check, king to g1, and can you now see my idea which combines this very important concept of the kiss of death? And this will improve in all your games. As you become a better chess player, you will recognize certain things which will lead to these checkmate patterns. Here, the key thing is actually the bishop and my queen having the potential to come into g2. So what is the move here? And if there's not a check that does anything good, and if there's not a capture which really creates a good threat, you should be looking at threats. Pause if you need to. Knight to g4, hey ho, here we come, over the top boys. And the point of this is that if white tries to take that knight, we see how the kiss of death is a very important concept. My queen would just come into g2 with checkmate. And after knight g4, my opponent is in a very bad situation because I'm threatening queen to h2 and queen to f1 checkmate, which is extremely hard to stop, nearly impossible. And my opponent went on to lose this position. My attack was too strong. Now, I want to show you one more example of the kiss of death, a very beautiful example which shows great vision from one of England's best players. So let's move over to that quickly now. So the player of the white pieces I mentioned needs to know. Now we're just going to look at a position after move 30 where black plays h5. Now again, you may be thinking, how on earth is the kiss of death relevant to this position? Well, we're going to see it is. And when you start to recognize these patterns, you start to try to think of how you can create these patterns, you can work backwards and try to think of a sequence of events that leads to the pattern. So as we know, the kiss of death is where the queen comes in front of the opponent's king. But how on earth is the white queen going to get to g7 here without being taken? Well, it's an amazing idea here. And another reason this works is because black is so tied down. Black doesn't have any active possibilities. Nigel now played king to h2. You may be thinking, why on earth is this scary? That's nothing. What is that move? We'll take a look. Rook to c8, and now king to g3. Can you see Nigel's idea yet? The rook to f4. And here, again, black is pretty helpless. He plays bishop to c8, attacking the rook. Even Nigel's play is confusing me here. What would you play now? Would you move your rook, which was attacked, or do you have another idea? Remember the kiss of death checkmate. This is the pattern you're going for here, and you can force the win here. Pause if you need to. King to g5, and this is the absolutely beautiful idea behind this play. And the point of this is, after bishop takes d7, I must point out here that Tinman actually resigned here. He hasn't got a defense such as king h7 because Nigel now has queen takes g6 check. Quite surprisingly, the pawn on f7 is pinned. And the whole point is, after bishop takes d7, the king finishes its triumphant march with king to h6, and there's no way black can stop the kiss of death checkmate with queen to g7. And again, this video is really trying to demonstrate various examples from real play, real examples from games when this checkmate has been the deciding factor. So you need to have these ideas in mind. If your queen is dangerously placed around your opponent's king, look at ways you can try to create this kiss of death checkmate.